Okay, we are recording. Any quippy banter? Do we want to make fun of Kara and Scott for using our intros? I think the answer is yes. Because they're using our intros.
So they listen to our podcast.
Yeah, and they
Kara
don't give us
Swisher,
credit. Kara
Swisher,
Scott,
and Scott Galloway.
taking our production
who have
skills.
one of the number one podcasts in the country, maybe even the world, are listening to the Jack and Kathy Shit Show.
They have to be.
And stole your production ideas.
That's right.
For the intro.
And scene. Cue the fucking music.
It's the Jack
and Kathy Shit Show.
And there we go.
Okay,
I think if
Okay. Are we looking more and more alike when I wear these glasses?
Yeah, we look alike. Thank you.
We're just becoming one person.
We look more.
Here, take a sip of your matcha.
I look
Ready?
nothing like
Come on.
as attractive as you do.
This is a highlight for all those watching. Look.
What do we, for all those? What about the ones listening?
They're missing it. Too bad. So you have this lovely new background. Jack got a curtain. And it looks really nice. You did a good job. You got a new ring light.
Yep. Maybe that's why I look more handsome.
I'm wondering if maybe I should, shower, comb my hair, and get dressed before the podcast now.
I'm wondering if maybe you should just do that in general.
Well, you don't do that unless you have a reason.
It smells nice. How's that for a reason?
Not strong enough.
I am trying to take our podcast and all the things that we do to the next level, and I'm realizing, like anything, like with woodworking that I do, right? So I have all the right tools, and it makes the woodworking process so much easier, right? Mm-hmm. And so
it's all about the tools.
It is.
It is.
And so I'm also realizing it's about the technology too, right? Duh, that's the tool. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things I notice is that when we podcast, I tend to look at you and look at you and look at you and turn my head as opposed to looking at you right now like I'm looking at you right now.
And I'm looking at the camera.
Because you are
or I'm looking at you
fixated on
the
yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear what I said?
Fixated on myself.
Yeah, there we go. I didn't know if that would get caught.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was downloading this tool called Opus, which a lot of other website or podcasters use to be Instagram ready. So it takes your and my picture and splits it top bottom. But the reason it couldn't do it with its AI is because my head was always turning like this.
And it couldn't find your eyes.
It couldn't find my eyes and my face because it uses facial recognition.
Mm-hmm.
I also lowered the microphones, if you noticed that today.
I did notice
Slight techniques that are enabling us to become more viral, if you will. Or at least use the tools correctly. Sounds bad?
Yeah, to be viral.
No, not to have a virus or something you need penicillin for.
Sounds like it is.
It's the itchies
bad.
And the burnies. Something's burning when I pee, doctor. I'm not sure why. So we've got that. And then for the real estate stuff that we do, for the real estate biz, I went out and finally got you a nice microphone, and I'm going to look at the video tool you use to make sure it's set at the right camera settings, because we just did a post yesterday on our Jack and Kathy Shit Show Instagram site, right?
Yep.
And use these lavalier microphones that are fucking unreal.
They really are.
I think they're called Godox. I can't remember. I got to look it up because I want to. So here's the thing. I'm always about trying to get sponsorship, right?
Yeah, the microphone that you attach to your, collar or jacket somewhere on your person is about the size of a button. It's a little magnet on the back, and it's two-part, and it just
it literally
uses a little magnet, and it looks like a button.
You can't even see it. It looks like a button. Correct.
My goodness, the sound quality is incredible.
I walked at least 40 feet away from you and still sounded like television level, like as if we were on a set, right?
Yeah.
So Godox, I'm going to write you to try to get sponsorship because we are going to use it all the time for Anata Homes, for the Jack and Kathy Shit Show, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're up on our game, babe. We want to be fucking
Well,
pros.
and
You got to
on
act like a
that-
fucking pro.
On that note, you want to share how you've upped our game with the Ann cards?
Yeah, so I reached out to
This is all Jack, by the way. I just literally, I can't even get dressed. I haven't brushed my teeth. I'm terrible. I just sit down.
I would still take you.
Well, that's good because you married me. But I just want to kudos, raise a glass to Jack.
Oh,
thank
cheers
you
to me.
to our everything. You are everything. You are just everything. Thank you.
A great lover. Put that out there, please.
Well, I was
Please
in the
put that-
context of the podcast, but
Really?
you
had to walk it an opposite direction.
yeah, because that's enjoyable.
Mm.
But anyway, so at the end of every
I'd
show,
like to get back to my loving.
we end with these cards, the and cards, and Jack.
The skin
Honar,
deep.
The skin deep.
Yeah.
This way.
Yeah.
This way.
That's good.
And Jack reached out to them, and they want to collaborate.
Yep.
Which is super fun because
So
we really do love these cards.
Yeah,
It's
we're
not-
gonna try to
It's not malarkey.
plan something. Boy, that light, we got to fix the lighting on that. See, can you turn it down just a little bit? See, when we did the and thing and it focused on this, look at the light. Look how good that looks. Look, babe.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I got to get the camera to focus right down here. Anyway, well, that's good.
Okay.
I like that.
All right.
Yeah, so we're doing a lot of things to try to grow the JCSS.
You're so sweet when you use we. You.
But we are. It's us. It's a collaborative thing. It's not by myself. This isn't my show. This is our show. And next year, I truly would like to have more guests.
Sounds good.
I do. I'd like to have more people be on the show and have more content that makes sense for more people, right? Because right now we just talk about shit. We're like the Seinfeld of podcasts. We have nothing to say ever.
That's right.
It's like that one scene where Jerry's like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? Or George says, we should do a show. What's it about? Nothing. That's us.
That is us.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally, there's a little substance. Occasionally.
We try to get there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to up the ante on our production quality.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've got the right mics, the right sound. We've had a couple of blips where the microphones didn't work and kick in and all that, but we fixed some of those things, right?
We had a great day yesterday. Can I segue into our great day yesterday?
Are we just totally changing the topic?
Yeah.
Off of me and my wondrousness?
Well, it's still your wondrousness.
Okay, you go.
We took ourselves out to Lapham Peak, which is out in Delafield.
Yeah.
And it is a beautiful, beautiful state park. I think it's a state park. It's not a national park. It's a state park, and it is rolling hills, and there's this one area where you can find a lookout tower, and we saw these beautiful vistas all around. You can see all the way down to downtown Milwaukee. You can see Holy Hill. You can see the lakes, a couple of the lakes. It was epically gorgeous, and I just really felt how it was really wonderful to take that time with you as my partner, to be in nature, to hike. It's incredibly, it just circled, and I think I'm speaking for both of us, how important it is for us to get into nature together. And maybe it's not right for everybody, but damn, that is a good reboot for
Us.
Yeah, I think it's a good, I don't know what word I'm looking for, like part of building your foundation together to have that experience.
Do you remember the book I talked to you about, the words that this guy used?
No.
Thanks for remembering the conversation we had for a while.
Well, it'll
on the
come
walk.
back. It's my brain is like Google search. You put in 2 letters, put in a couple of more words, and it'll come down.
Connection ports.
Yeah.
Do you remember? You don't.
No,
I can tell your
not
eyes.
yet.
Oh
No.
my God! I must have said connection ports 500 times on the walk. Do you? When I'm with, am I just like for you? Is it like the Charlie Brown thing? Every time I talk, it.
Not at all.
You don't
my
remember? I said
love.
connection ports. You talked about this cool thing called connection ports, and you're like, you don't remember any of it.
You talked about it yesterday?
Oh, and my God, on the walk.
Well, keep talking about it.
Holy shit. I told you, so Brian Grasso wrote a book called Mindset Matters Most. And he was my training coach. Him and his wife, God, I'm drawing a blank on her name now. But him and his wife taught this coaching stuff that I got a part of. That's how I met Paul from England, Paul Webb, right? Mm-hmm. And so in his book, he came across the concept. I don't think it's his concept, but whatever, the concept of connection ports, where there are things attached to your soul that no matter how many times you change, you still need these things. They're not limiters. They're just where you get your energy, and you need to go back to those things periodically. For example, for some people, it's playing music. For other people, it's being a sommelier. Whatever those things are, those are your connection ports. Do you remember any of this now? Oh my God, I'm not going to talk anymore when we're together. You really not remember any of this?
Kind of. I don't remember the turn of phrase.
I'm going to quiz
ports.
you after every time we
sorry.
get together because I know you're not paying attention to me.
Oh, babe.
But you're not. We truly talked about connection ports and how in his book I even said he had an entire chapter dedicated to this topic where you have to go back to those things that fill your soul. And do you remember me saying this to you?
I do remember that.
You remember me saying
I
that?
do remember that.
Do you remember me saying it's not just that I'm outdoors? There's one more thing I said. It's not just being outdoors. It's
being physical outdoors, and it's being together outdoors.
No, I never said the words together. I said it's about getting my heart rate up and using the outdoors as a challenge to me. So it's hiking and getting a sweat in, like being active and exercising and getting my heart rate up. Oh my God.
I remember that.
Do you?
I do. Yes, absolutely I do. I'm sorry. I am so sorry.
Oh my God. Do you know that we have a podcast going on right now?
What? What's your name again?
Anyway, connection ports, huge thing, part of this book. Brian Grasso carries his wife's name. I'm drawing up like I heard her last name. But Mindset Matters Most. It's a really good book. And then there it talks about resetting by going to those places that fulfill you. So how does that feel now that I rounded out what you forgot what we talked about?
Well, you articulated what I was trying to say much better than I did.
That's it? We're just going to land the plane now?
Oh, I feel so bad for you.
Why?
Because you're stuck with me now.
Then let's talk
You
about
married
our
me.
physical life, because that compensates for all of this.
Oh, my goodness. You were such a boy.
And you are such a woman.
Oh, God, now you're creepy.
We were listening to Scott and Kara, and I have to tell you, it's one of the funniest lines. Him and you know where I'm going with this.
Do you think it's going to have the same effect?
I don't give a shit.
Okay.
I'm just
Explain that if nobody knows or for those of you that don't know the podcast Pivot, Kara Swisher her background is as a journalist,
Specifically
especially
a tech
in
journalist.
the technology
Right.
region. And she has many podcasts, a few podcasts now, but she is very well known in the world of journalism and politics. And Scott Galloway is a professor at, where is he?
NYU.
NYU. And he is a businessman, startups and investments on a million boards, and just is
Very successful.
quick wit,
Financially
very successful.
Very smart.
Raising his children in London, but has a house in Aspen. He's
Place
just a
in New
really
York.
interesting human being as well. And
One of the more popular TED Talks out there about the
Yeah.
challenges of youth going on today. But go ahead.
yes, very, very good podcast. Really enjoy listening to them, and just very smart as well. And they're very knowledgeable. And so, if you listen to Scott Galloway long enough, and you listen to Jack Honar long enough, you start to see them melding together, and you feel like they are sometimes the same person, because there's so many times that what comes out of Scott's mouth, Jack is like, oh, I've said that.
we'll be in the car and I'll say something and all of a sudden he says it, right? Mm-hmm. Remember that? We'll be in the car and I'll say something and all of a sudden Scott says the same thing. Mm-hmm. And I wish I had his money and maybe I'll get there someday, or I will get there someday. However, he is also pretty quick-witted and a little dirty sometimes. And he plays off of Kara that way.
He is, how do I want to say, unencumbered by what other people will think of him. He just spews it out. And believe me, he takes some hits. He gets commentary that is bashing him. And
well, every once in a while he does a lot of dick jokes, which are quite frankly funny.
It makes Kara roll her eyes. She's like, please don't. Oh, shit.
Well, so can I
But
get...
there's a loving relationship there between the two of them.
Well, they're both...
Because they respect each other so
well, and they're brilliant.
Much, and their intelligence and
their show is...
Their vast knowledge.
Yeah, and their show is incredibly informative. Mm-hmm. I'm in that tech world quite a bit, so I love listening to it. They delve into other topics that are really... This most recent podcast, though, recorded I think on Friday or published on Friday, whatever it was, on Pivot, was so funny. I could not stop laughing, and I said to Kathy, for those of you listening, and Kara and Scott, I know someone on your staff is fucking listening because you stole our intro style, and I get it. Anyone could do it. Yeah, it's not unique. I've never seen anyone else do it, and so I'm sure others have done it before. But you're definitely listening to us, so give us props and say, check out our show, because we'd like to just do this for a living, like you guys get to do for a living. So rant over, sounding a little bit like Scott even. No, I'm not. I'm not sure. But Scott is unencumbered, to Kathy's point, to your point, about just saying whatever the fuck he wants to say. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes, there's been a few times on our podcast where Kathy's like, edit that out. No way am I going to let that air.
I know. I'm so conservative and shy, and I
are
unfortunately care what other people think.
It's not that. It's not that you care what other people think. It's that family members listen, and you're terrified
That's
that their
like,
reply.
Oh my gosh, your mom, my father,
our kids,
listening.
And I lean into 100%. Don't
my
give
sister,
it. And I lean into.
sister.
And what do I lean into? Don't give a shit. It's our podcast. It's our life. I'm going to be true to us. And we're not bad people, by the way, just for the record. It's not like we talk about things that are hurtful.
I hope that goes without saying.
Oh, I think it should be worth saying. We're not saying egregiously stupid things. You want to debate us? Cool. Anyway, on the show, Scott and Kara were talking about, how did it come up? Now I'm losing how. I know exactly what he said, but I'm forgetting the context.
I know you know what he said. Something about two favorite things or something. No, it was the topic.
It was, Scott was talking about how he's so rich that now he's getting mitochondrial treatments, and Kara starts making fun of him, saying, you're a stereotypical... It makes your mitochondria stronger so your cells work better. And Kara said, all you rich people do the same shit just to try to extend life, and it's just all bullshit. She goes, your things, and she starts listing other things that he's into, and all of a sudden he goes, Kara, I'm only into two things, THC and ass play. And I could not stop laughing, mostly because that's the shit.
You were driving, almost ran into a tree, couldn't see.
I almost hit a car in front of me because I was laughing so hard. Not only that he said THC and ass play, which was fucking great because it caught Kara off guard. But
Kara's
by the
like,
way,
so
you guys listen to this know that's the shit that gets edited out of this podcast. I can't say things like, Kat, I'm just only into THC and ass play.
Well, you said it now.
Cat's out of the bag, bitches. This does not mean we are irresponsible people. He donated $10 million to University of California schools. So I guess he's earned the right. He's got fuck you money, right? He's earned the right to say THC and ass play. Mm-hmm. And you're right. It does not come without some consequence, but he doesn't care. And then Kara said something else because he's ripping on her. It was a really fun episode. We encourage you guys. We're spending a lot of time on their show. We encourage you to listen to them because they have good insights and good thinking on a lot of things, particularly technology and AI. And if any of you are worried, fearful, or trying to understand AI, they're a great source. Mm-hmm. So anyway, he was just ripping on her because what did he talk about her? He goes, you dress now like you don't give a shit, like you've given up. And she said something funny. She goes, no,
like me.
Right.
I never started that way. I
Right.
never tried from the very beginning.
Right. And she said, no, I dress this way because I've already won, which I thought was fucking great.
Yeah.
Anyway, a lot of time on that topic.
I know.
You love banter. We're just 20 minutes into banter on nothing. Again, the nature of our show. But we've got a new curtain behind us. We've got better cameras, better audio. We're trying to up our game a little bit. We're going to do some work with the Skin Deep, which I'm excited about. So we're brainstorming that. We're using this Godox lavalier microphone system that's fucking affordable. I think it was $150 maybe.
Yeah.
And goddamn, does it produce really good quality. So if you're doing this kind of stuff, or hey, if you want my help getting you off the ground on a podcast, we have a little production company called Pint Productions, so we can give you some insight on all this shit. Okay. Shameless plugs.
Very nicely
completed.
done.
So here's where I wanted to go today.
Okay.
While we were on the hike, not sure if you remember this conversation.
What hike?
Fucker. By the way, after this show, we are going to get it on big time to compensate. And I'm not afraid to say that. Sans the THC because I need my wits about me today.
Only the THC part?
Oh, yeah. We're doing everything else, mama.
Lord help me.
Light it up.
Lord help me.
Hey, we've got new cameras and audio gear. And scene.
Scene.
See, that's what Scott would say, and I'm not editing that out. So anyway, so help me out of here. I want to ask you, number one, if you recall, which I hope you do, and then number two, your point of view on this, because while we were on this hike, you know, the hikes actually, I feel, bring us closer together because we talk a lot.
Well, that was my point, yeah.
I'm realizing we don't talk about, I just talk and you wander, which is fine.
You, to be sure,
Talk a lot.
You talk a lot.
Blah, blah, blah. So does Scott on the show with those guys too, which is funny.
I like your talking.
I just wish you listened. But I get how you're like in out. So we have friends that have reached out to us in the past and presently that when we talk about our relationship and the work that we've done in our relationship, we often mention my therapist, which is now our therapist, Linda, who's a family counselor, right? Specializes in family therapy and has done wonders for me personally. If you're willing to put in the work, I think any therapist can do a good job. And I also feel she's done a great job for us. And so we don't go to her as a crutch. We go to her, as you like to say and said in previous podcasts, as
putting more tools in the toolbox.
That's it.
Gaining more skills to bring to the relationship to make it strong, solid,
right,
respectful. Yep.
Right. And so sometimes friends of ours have said, hey, can you put us in touch with your therapist? Because me and my partner are just trying to figure some things out. Nothing's bad, right? We're not at that stage.
And can I just comment that makes me think, I'd like to throw in there, I believe that many people, if you haven't experienced therapy, look at therapy as something's broken, desperate attempt to salvage something, or you might feel you're not strong enough on your own to deal with it. You don't need it.
Right.
And really, therapy is like going for that exercise, going for a workout, stopping for a meditation, or taking your vitamins, or it's just like one chapter in the health and wellness playbook, you know? Unless you truly are in crisis and something is at a tipping point, and then it's, you definitely need it to, make sure terrible things don't happen. But it can really, it's about continuing to educate yourself even and learn about yourself. And I have learned so much in this relationship, and Linda has helped unlock some of that learning. So, okay, sorry, I had to just interject that because I know some people have never experienced therapy and they might think, oh, I don't need it. I'm not I'm not working on anything. I don't have any problems. Well, we all got something we can talk about and dig deep and unlock and yeah. So
I viewed therapy much different than perhaps that stereotype where it's lying on a couch and talking about problems. I viewed it as I'm feeling a certain way, need to move past this, and the tools I have at my disposal, the way I'm approaching it and thinking about it isn't working. Mm-hmm. And so I can read a ton of stuff. I need someone to kind of apply different methods for me. To me, it's no different than finding a fitness trainer who says, hey, twist your wrist just a little bit differently when you're lifting weights. You're going to take pressure off your wrists and be able to get more reps in, for example, right? Or when I was mountain biking with a bunch of guys that I met in Arizona, they raised my seat a half an inch and moved my handlebars a little bit, and holy shit, the ride was smoother.
That's a really great analogy, actually.
But it was, and these guys are pros who do this forever, right? And talking to Travis, he even was suggesting a couple of things about how to make the ride last longer and get more efficiency out of your ride. These are experts.
Yeah.
And so, like you and I are both always excited about improvement, right? That's why we're going to try a few things when this podcast is over. You know what I'm saying? We're going to improve that aspect of our life. So, in all seriousness, that's how I viewed therapy. Was I need to solve problems a little bit better, and I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
And so Linda has been fantastic and has been a rock for me for the past 7-8 years. On and off. Saw her with a great frequency early on to solve stuff.
Yeah.
And then that became maybe once a year. A couple years had passed. And then you and I got a chance to meet her anyway. Friends recently reached out and said, hey, we're looking at finding somebody because you guys talk so highly about her. And I said, I'll reach out and see if there's any openings. And God, this has taken a long time to get to this core of the podcast. She's retiring.
Wee.
So remember talking about this on the walk now?
Yes, I do.
So it kind of hit me because you said something, not sure if you remember saying this, is that
you're going to preface everything you recall now. I'm not sure if you remember.
You know what's funny? I listen to every podcast we do 2 or 3 times. I don't think you've listened to one of the 100 we've produced already. Right? Okay.
No.
So maybe just for shits and giggles to try to keep up with things in a relationship. Anyway, it really hit me hard. Not that I necessarily need Linda's stuff anymore because all of her teachings still ring in my head. She sits like an angel on my shoulder. When I'm experiencing things, I have a moment of literally, what would Linda tell me to do in this? What would she tell me to do in this moment? And I try to grab some of those resources. She's been incredibly kind, but she wrote that she's done. And it struck me as, wow, I've lost that resource.
Yeah.
She's no longer someone I can go to. And so I'm 58 years old going, oh shit, it had the same feeling of I'm going off to college and mom and dad aren't here to do X.
Oh, you won't have that lifeline.
I don't have that anymore, right?
Yes, yes.
And it felt vacuous just for a moment. And then this is the dialectic, right?
Yes.
It felt vacuous in that moment and then enlightening, right? Or
it opened up a new door, really.
It did, and it made me feel wonderful for her that she's said, I've done all I can do in this realm. I'm on to the next realm of my life. She said the door is now open between us to have a different type of relationship, which I was thrilled by.
Yeah.
Instantly, my brain went to... Get her on the podcast. She was reluctant to be on the podcast because she didn't want it to be perceived as therapy. I would love to have her on not to talk about us and our relationship, but rather relationships in general. If she's interested, I know that's a big ask. Give her some space. But I'm curious your feeling on, we talked about this and you said, do you remember this?
Well, I'm not sure what you're going to say, but I remember immediately thinking, oh, that just opens up the avenue for a new type of a relationship with her where we could even be social with her because we really like her as a person. And obviously your therapist isn't going to, go out to dinner with us and her husband to be social, because that can cross the, that's maybe blurs the edges a little bit too much of that professional relationship. And And now I'm like, oh, how cool. I mean, yes, like you said, the dialectic of, oh, she's not going to be there for us and in that therapeutic role. But we get to explore other aspects of this relationship for this human being that we find so brilliant and so cool. And
That's
so
a great
that
word.
was,
She's really cool.
yeah. And so it's one door closes and another one opens. It truly was that in an instant when you told me that news.
Yeah, it's interesting for me because I've obviously had far more experiences with her than you have. And I've met with a lot of different therapists in my time and found them all to be kind of cookie cutter, stereotypical bullshit stuff. She has a way about her of cutting through the shit pretty quickly and working with my brain in particular. It tends to, this fire often on a lot of cylinders too quickly. So anyway, I just didn't know if there was more, if you had more to add to this or more of your thoughts on it. It doesn't feel like there's a loss necessarily. One of her words, without reading it to everybody, was essentially, you've always had this.
Mm-hmm.
This has always been your work.
Sure.
And to me, it's just a lesson in life, period, right? That I'm 58 years old, right? We're both 58 years old and we're still learning and changing, and we still have people we're connected to that we feel we need in some way, right? And I don't necessarily need Linda anymore that way, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I want to know that she's always there just in case.
Yeah.
Her words to me were, "You've got this," which was kind of cool. Not that I didn't have it before, but you've always had this kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how you sense that or what your thoughts are, if you've had similar experiences in different relationships that have kind of transitioned.
Not the same, I don't think. Yeah, not in the same way. This one is very, I don't know, I feel like the lines were very black and very strong, hard lines between the relationships. And now I feel like it's literally a door closes and another one opens. It's not like this slow blurring and transition. I think this relationship with her is like, almost completely new, right? Almost starting from the beginning.
Yeah.
Getting to know her, hopefully on a more personal social level, because she is a fascinating person and has fascinating things to say.
There's an episode in Shrinking, which we both like.
Yeah, great show.
Yeah, where Harrison Ford has to say goodbye because his space is limited and he's got to work on somebody else, and he feels the guy that keeps coming to him is coming to him only because he likes coming to Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
Well, it's... Let me give you my own background. I went to Linda. I increased my time with Linda when you and I started dating.
Mm-hmm.
Because I started seeing her every other week, if you recall, maybe once a month.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was really struggling with these feelings I had because no one I had dated was like you who really saw me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my obvious reaction was, this is unfamiliar and fearful. I'm afraid of getting hurt again. And she said, you might. And you probably will. Mm-hmm. And that's the pool you have to dive into if you want to experience anything. Otherwise, you can sit on the sidelines. Point is, after maybe 4 or 5 sessions, probably prior to you and I buying the house we live in now, she said to me, we're sitting there looking, and I think we talked for 15 minutes. And I went, you feel I'm done, don't you? She goes, you're ready. You've been ready for a while. And she goes, just look at you. You're confident. You look more confident with things, etc. Where I'm going with this is in Shrinking, Harrison Ford's character really, I knew I was going back to Linda because I just wanted her friendship.
Yeah.
She was such an impactful part of my growth and journey that I wanted her to be in my life more, and that, to your point, that boundary was always there, that client-patient relationship. In fact, in the book, Maybe You Should Talk to Someone, Lori Gottlieb talks about how she starts to have an affection for her therapist, not sexual affection, but just a true friendship. And when that relationship ended because she had completed her therapy, it was vacuous. There was a void.
Right. It felt like a loss.
It did. And what I'm encouraged by is the possibility to get to know her as a person. And if we got together, I wouldn't want to talk about therapy. I'd like to talk about the things that she enjoys, because I really enjoy. There were moments when we would just laugh about shit that was going on in her life and my life that seemed to cross into a boundary, and she was very good at shutting it down the moment it started to resemble something too far from therapy, right?
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful that it would be cool to have her and her husband on the show.
Yeah.
Or even her to come on with some infrequent frequency, if that makes any sense. Just to talk about what couples can do, or what, you know what I'm getting at, right? Things to work on.
Yeah.
So anyway, just transition. And that's what I wanted. So we're going on this hike and I get this text and I read it, and couldn't have been more perfect.
Yeah.
So I wanted to share that. It feels transitionary to me, probably with much more depth than it does for you. At the same time, I know you really became quite fond of her.
Yes, as I got to know you and realized your history with all the books you read, the self-help and just increasing your personal awareness, and then how your history with Linda herself and the time, energy, and money you put into therapy with her, I knew that it couldn't be just any average, mediocre person that you were investing this time, energy, and money in. I knew she had to be intellectually your equal, because you aren't easily, I don't know, you can't pull one over on you. You are just very quick, and I knew your therapist had to be of a very high caliber. How about that? So I kind of went into my first meeting with her really knowing that I could trust her. I didn't have to build that trust, So I have not seen her as many times as you have. Obviously, you and I have been to see her a handful of times. But like we said earlier, she was always in our back pocket should we have a little eruption of some kind in our relationship that we're like, okay, how about a little infusion of Linda?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And it's funny because the last two times we went to see her, we sort of
Needed
solved
her
it.
less.
We solved it on our own. And the time the appointment came around,
Right.
and we had talked it through, and so we would sit in her office and kind of recap what we went through and touch on some things. And not that she wasn't helpful by any means, but we would work through a lot. So yeah, that was my perspective of Linda, is like I came into it with a high degree of trust for her intelligence and skill, because you have such a high bar in that regard.
Yeah. It was a great and will be a great relationship, just in a different way. And I think the theme that we're throwing down here, if people are picking it up, is that change is inevitable. And while you were just talking, something popped into my head. I was talking to Alex, because I got to spend some time with Alex this week while her husband was at a bachelor party in Texas. And she overheard our last podcast where I said, I promise I'm going to tie this. I'm circling the airport a little bit here. So she was talking about how she heard me saying, I'm going to go to the studio and record the song that I wrote for you for our wedding. And she said, well, I want you to record the song you wrote for me. The L-O-V-E, love you, that one.
Yeah, for her wedding.
And instantly, my brain went to my friend Kevin Laverty, who was the first guy that gave me a chance to play music, period. Okay,
that's the friend that we went to his funeral. Yeah. Yep.
So Kevin, I think, is 15, 20 years older than me. And met Kevin because he worked for me. He was in a band. I was just learning to play the guitar. Could only hold 3 chords. I said, can I be in your band? He said, you suck, in a nice way. But he was always my inspiration. And so every time I would do songs on a staircase at my old house, Kevin would write me privately, like that song, didn't like that, think of this change. And so I would write him. In fact, I did a podcast with him, and I can't for the life of me find it. It kills me, because I would love to re-air it. It was a beautiful time for him and I to talk about things. where I'm going with this is on the drive to the city. When Alex said do this stuff, I reached out to Mike and said, Mike, I want to get in the studio and record 2 songs. I'm going to need session guys, and I may move 2 songs off the current album, but this is important to me to get these 2 songs on the album, right?
Yeah.
And I wanted to call Kevin. I found myself reaching for his phone number to go, hey, Kevin, I want your input on some stuff. And hey, would you like to maybe even do some things on it?
Mm-hmm.
And I realized he's been dead 3 years now, 2 years.
2, I think.
And so my reason for bringing it up is the takeaway is there are so many people in our lives that we rely on so heavily. Mm-hmm. And we realize that we're just not going to have them all the time. And as I've gotten older, those connections mean a lot to me. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying to engage more with those connections. And Linda, while she's not dead, right, it still feels like that type of loss, right? That if I need to have that moment of insecurity or doubt or information, I got to go to somebody else now.
Yeah.
And that's just part of life, right? I mean, that's just how things go. And last thing I'll leave you, promise, is that I posted on Instagram, who's the comedian that does songs in a car? He does all the singing in a car with other artists.
With the talk show.
I want to say Jimmy, but
Andy.
Andy's his name?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't think it's Andy, but you know the guy I'm talking about, right?
Yes.
He will sing with Adele in his car.
Right.
And sing with somebody like Dave Grohl in his car, the Foo Fighters or Chili Peppers, right? Anyway, he was interviewed recently, and I posted this on our Instagram page where he said, life changes in a phone call. At 1 minute, you're going one way, and next thing you know, the phone rings. And it could be you got into that school, or someone died, or someone's sick, or the doctor says the results didn't come back. But life typically changes with a message. Like it just changes like that, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what the thing to Linda was like. I sent out a message thinking life is normal, as I know it. And she wrote back, I'm moving out of your life in this way.
Right.
And it's kind of timely that life does change that quickly, right? That quickly it goes and pivots. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, all right, you talk.
Well, that was good. That's true. And the ability to pivot with it.
That's right.
And to look at what might have just occurred as either a blessing or an opportunity. We can't fight those things, right? They're going to happen whether we accept them or not. So if we take the chance of being vulnerable and leaning into that moment and that what has happened, who knows what can come of that? That could be extremely rewarding, right? Mm-hmm. And that takes a lot of trust. And I think that's true in a relationship with your partner, right? So tying it back to this podcast and us and our relationship, we've had, and I'm sure we're going to have plenty more events that happen in our lives that affect us greatly. Mm-hmm.
Inevitable.
Yeah. And we pivot and shift together, right? And that's not always easy, and it doesn't have to be negative. But that ability to be vulnerable in those moments and to stay open to what it could bring you. So.
Well, and if my big takeaway is you don't know when that's going to happen, so embrace every moment. I, in fact, said to you the other morning, I'm living my best life right now. Mm-hmm. Now, do I have my retirement stuff complete? No.
Yeah.
Do we have shit to do at the house? Yeah.
Yeah. Does that mean we don't have boxes we're still trying to check?
Right.
Right.
But I'll be damned if I'm not embracing every moment. That walk I had with you was invigorating. And then you and I.
What walk?
And there we go. Ladies and gentlemen listening, she's not kidding. I know she's joking now, but she will forget that we recorded a podcast today. We'll go talk about something, and I'll say, remember we just talked about the podcast, and you'll go podcast.
I actually have no idea who you are. So.
And scene. You're going to know who I am in about 45 minutes,
I just woke up one day
minutes,
and I
though.
had these rings on my finger. I'm like, what?
Yeah, you were looking at your rings last night. You're staring at your rings, and I'm going, having second thoughts?
No, I was straightening them because
they fall out of...
They're not aligned. And you looked up at me and thought I was pondering something. You were joking, though. You're like, yeah.
Having second thoughts?
Having second thoughts.
Rethinking things?
Shut up. But anyway.
By the way, my name's Jack.
Oh, nice to meet you.
You're going to get to know me really well in about 35 minutes. And then 32 minutes from then, it'll be all over.
Okay.
There we go. Had to say it. Don't give a shit. Okay, we are going to lean into the skin deep. We talked about them earlier. We like to end every podcast, and this is probably, I hope, the time when everyone pays attention instead of just running away. But we're going to do the Skin Deep stuff. We encourage you to go to their website or YouTube channel called The Skin Deep. Pick a card, any card, my sweet.
Which box is this from?
This is from I'm liking this box a lot, called the Amusing Edition.
The Amusing Edition.
But I don't think it's as amusing as I want it to be.
Right.
I'd like it to be really
like
silly.
Knee slapping, belly laughing kind of stuff.
Like, tell me about a time when my farts didn't smell. You know, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
You go
ready?
first. Yeah.
How far back can you trace your family history, and to where does it lead?
Ooh.
That's actually kind of a poignant question for what you've been contemplating pursuing.
Well, so we just got back from Luxembourg a year ago to get your citizenship, and then your mom was pushing my Italian and Polish citizenship for me.
Are you
Not
half
pushing.
and half? You're 50-50?
So 50% Polish and about 40% Italian, and the rest is just some mutt shit thrown in there.
Okay.
So it was my grandmother on my mom's side that I think was German and maybe Irish. It was my grandfather that was 100% Italian.
Okay.
So a little dilution on maybe 25%, 30% Italian, but mostly Polish. My dad was 100%, right? So, yeah. So how far back can I go? Easily more than great-grandparents. And your mother, I shouldn't say me, your mother in a nanosecond was like, oh, yeah, I know this person, and they killed that person, and this person lived over here on a farm in Poland and then moved to this area of Croatia. Whatever the hell she did, it was
Mary Riley
unreal.
is a great genealogist. So she's been doing it many, many years and has written many books, self-published many books, I think 5 now. Sorry, Mom, I don't know the exact number. She's working on the 6th or the next one.
So impressive and
so this is
intimidating.
how she discovered that the opportunity to pursue dual citizenship in Luxembourg with our family history was a possibility. So I completed that. Next year we go for the passport in D.C.
Yep.
And my kids are now pursuing it.
Yep.
And so you are interested in pursuing that too, because how cool is that?
Oh, God, it'd be great. And it opens up opportunities for us in the future. And
well, even just traveling around Europe with an EU passport is different. Could have some great ease of travel, if nothing else, right?
Right.
And it kind of makes me proud to be able to have dual citizenship. So thank you, Mary Riley, for all your hard work. We just are very grateful and for helping Jack. So it's super cool.
Yeah. So anyway,
there you go.
Poignant, timely question, because without your mom, I don't know how far back I could go on my own. Damn, she greases the skids for sure and makes things easy, right?
Yeah.
Very talented. Okay, my question to you. Where do you cross the line where most people would stop?
Is that a question for yourself?
No, that's for you. Where do you cross the line where most people would stop? You don't cross lines.
I don't cross lines.
Ever.
I probably should cross more lines.
You should.
But I'm probably looking down too often to say, oh, is that a line? Oh, is that a line?
Yeah. You don't. Can you think of a time I can't think in the 17 years I've known you, minus 14, that you have ever, I can't think of a line you have ever crossed. Can you think of any?
Oh, I'm sure there is. I'm sure there's a few people listening that could chime in on that. But
really?
Yeah, I am definitely not a perfect person. And I mean, I was short and crabby with you yesterday.
See, that's not crossing a line. To me, crossing a line is what I do when I'll be with a bunch of people and then just say something incendiary just to piss them off. Or like what Scott does, THC and ass play, right? When he says it, that's crossing a line.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I cross lines
Yeah,
daily.
I don't think that's my personality to cross lines really.
Have you?
Yeah.
Can you think of a moment when you kind of like being crabby, like you just talked about? To me, is not crossing a line.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's just you being upset.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway,
I guess.
I am going to get mad at you. Was about to get mad at you for a second. You know that, right?
I noticed that the battery on the computer was not plugged
Yeah,
in, and I didn't want it to go out.
Yeah. So touching things in the middle of recording is not a good
Is that
idea.
crossing a line?
That's not crossing a line. That's just not thinking it through.
Yeah.
Because that would have really upset
Well, getting
me.
back to the question, that's just not my personality.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Did you ever
Is that
cross a line
bad?
where
Is
you
that
did
good?
something? You know, to me, crossing a line is, I don't know. I can't see you doing it. That's what's so funny.
Right.
Like you're
Certainly not intentionally crossing a line.
That's what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
I feel it's I know I'm going there and I don't give a fuck.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. That's what it said. Where you knew you were doing something. Yeah, I can't think of it. Aren't you the most perfect babe? Babe, great talk.
Thank you, babe.
I love our new getup, our new studio.
Well done. Thank you, Jack Honer.
You ready for what the next 30 minutes holds? Boom, chakalaka.
Breakfast?
Breakfast. Oh, yeah, we
Okay.
should have breakfast.
Yeah.
Then,
Yeah.
by breakfast, I know what you mean.
I love you, Jack Honer.
And on that note, peace.
You just listened to another episode of the Jack and Kathy Shit Show. All recording, engineering, and production provided by us. Connect with the podcast on Instagram at Jack and Kathy Shit Show for more insight into our shit show of a life. This episode is proudly brought to you by Pint Productions.
Point.